Huh. I wonder if there's some kind of a purge that happens that Discord will say if this person hasn't been active for such a period of time, they're just kind of left from an active. Dinner time, but if it's, you know, a wake hour.
All right. How's it going, everybody? Let's see. We're going to get a couple things here straightened out. All right. So, happy Monday. So, we've got Whiskerz here with us. Say hello.
Howdy, y'all.
So, Whiskerz is the mastermind. I'm going to put all the pressure on you. Whiskerz is the mastermind behind Proxmox, at least the reason that I started using Proxmox. So we've had a lot of people that have asked for a how do you install Proxmox tutorial. And I initially thought, oh, you know what? I should do a full-on production video about it because it's important, and I don't know if there's a good one out there. And then reality hit, and I started looking at all the things I have to do, and I thought, there's just no way I'm going to get that done, not in any kind of timely manner. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go through it live now, and then if based on how it goes, assuming it all works well, and I'm got Whiskerz here, so I'm sure it'll work well, then I can just chop that up and make a shorter length video out of it for people who don't want to watch an hour's worth of stuff. So that's what we're doing today. How's everybody doing? Let's see. I'll move this over a little bit because the chat's getting a little bit blanked out. All right, so what we're going to do, let's see what everybody says. Let's kind of move some of these things out of the way. All right, what's everybody says? Let's see. We'll talk chat for a minute. Can't install Proxmox. Keeps looking for CD-ROM. Okay, well, we'll... Oh, I wonder, so your machine, Sachi, your machine is probably looking for CD over USB. How are you putting in a USB stick with the image on it? Because if that's the message you're getting that's looking for CD-ROM, it's probably looking for CD-ROM. It's probably not looking for it's probably not looking for the USB stick. So that's probably what you need to work on figuring out there. So, all right. So what we've got going on today, let's go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? Let's get this going. I know I don't know, you probably don't have much you're in the evenings for you, so you're pretty free. I've got to run in, oh man, I only have about 40 minutes now. Dang it. Okay, but that's all right. We're going to do this. So in order to be able to show you the install screens and stuff for Proxmox, what we're doing is we're actually installing Proxmox inside of Proxmox. so we're creating a bit of a vortex here. This is definitely an inception, right? But that's what we're going to do. So essentially, when I hit start here, it is going to, it'll be just like I put the USB stick with the ISO image for Proxmox into my Nook or whatever computer you're going to use, and then turned it on. So that part, you go to Proxmox, download the ISO image, put it on a USB stick or a CD-ROM if that's what your computer's looking for, whatever, and then fire up your computer, and that's where we're going to get. Okay? All right. Sound good? What do you say, Whiskerz? We ready?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. So right here, I'm just going to hit start on this guy. And then we should see it here, right?
So because you hit start outside of the window, it
now I
wasn't
have to open a
prompted.
new
The window wasn't prompted to refresh. Yeah, you'll have to open.
Okay. All right. So there it is. So this is the first screen that you'll see. Oh, let's make this look bigger, right? We can do this. Excellent. Okay, great. So this is the screen that you'll get when so for me, I got the Nook out, connected it to the monitor, connected it to a keyboard and a mouse, wrote the ISO image on a USB stick, put that in the Nook, and then turned it on. And when I did, this is what popped up. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to do this. Install Proxmox VE, right?
Yes. What was the program you used to burn it to the?
Oh gosh, what did I use? You could use Etcher, can't you? What did I use?
Yes. I thought that was the one that you used. That seems to be a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, I like using Etcher. I can't remember what. There was something else too. Anyways, whatever you use, it wouldn't matter, right? Just use something that can write an image to a USB drive. Okay. So now we're going to do install Proxmox, and it'll start going through this part. Try and answer some questions at the same time. So yeah, it's Etcher. What's a Nook? It's NUC, Ian, and it's an Intel all-in-one mini. I don't know if it's maybe even fanless little computer. They're pretty powerful little computers. They're kind of expensive, but for the size and the power usage and such, they're really helpful. They're really good. So yeah, Dale says small computer. Rufus works great for writing image. Maybe that's what I used. I thought I did use something different. Yeah, I did. I used Rufus that time. Yep. Thank you, FE. Rufus. That's the one. All right, so this thing's doing its thing. You likely need to enable CPU virtualization in the BIOS before installing Proxmox. Oh, I didn't have to. Idaho Joe. Just got rid of Proxmox to test 6.7 ESXi. That's cool, Squalazzo. That's cool. Okay. Making progress over here.
When we get to this next section, there's going to be an error. And this is not something that should be expected on a normal computer. It's because we're virtualizing it. And it's not going to cause any problems even with the virtualization. Just be aware that this prompt is known to happen when we are virtualizing the Proxmox instance.
Okay. Mark says should install Proxmox inside of VMware. No, I wouldn't recommend that. I'm just doing it so that I can show you the screen, because otherwise the only way to do it would be to like point a camera at the monitor and install it on a computer, because I can't capture the screen another way. So that's why we're doing it this way. Okay, so all this stuff here, yes, read this and memorize it. There'll be a test afterwards. Okay. And then this is the drive we've got to install it on, so we're going to do that. Did that take? Yep. Country, huh? United States. Password. All right, you guys, you ready?
So this password is going to be the same password that you use for both SSH into the Proxmox box, as well as the user interface through the web UI. The email address, if you put in your own email address, your Proxmox box can send you emails for certain system-related events. I get errors coming to my email box, even though I don't have an email server set up on Proxmox at all. They will send out emails. They're unvalidated, but they'll get to my inbox and they'll tell me things like it's not able to detect the hard drive, or if one of the hard drives are notifying you that there's a smart failure, things of that nature.
Cool. Okay. All right. What do we
So
got here?
the FQDN, or the host name, this is kind of important because Proxmox defaults to creating a signed certificate. The host name is attached to that signed certificate. If you want to change the host name later, you should be able to do it. You're going to have to kind of pull your hair out a little bit because you're going to have to find some details. It shouldn't be too much more difficult than creating a new signed certificate in the command prompt if you want to. But just be aware that the IP address and the host name are tied to the signed certificate that's automatically generated. If you change it later on, you're going to have to go through some extra steps in order to do it, but it can be done.
Okay, so the idea here then for most basic users is going to be set this host name and leave it, right? Don't change it later.
That's the easiest thing.
Right.
A good way, since you're planning on just using it inside of home network, you can just get rid of the last part of it, and as long as it ends in .local, it should be fine.
So I'm going to say PVE Proxmox .local, right? So the important part is that it ends in .local. That's
and
all you have
I
to
say
really
that
do.
because we're not trying to attach it to the internet, and industry standard is to not use a publicly routable domain name on a private network if it's not meant to be, and it has to do with just making things easier down the road for DHCP.
So we're not going to put DrZzs.com or something in here. We're going to just this way it'll be fine. We can access it from inside our local network, and we don't have to worry about redoing a certificate later.
Correct. And this is, the Proxmox is built on top of Debian. So if you wanted to give it a full domain name and use Let's Encrypt, that's totally supported. And it's just as easy as installing Let's Encrypt on any other Debian-based or Ubuntu-based operating.
Cool. All right. So mine is good. Host name's good. PVE Proxmox local.
Yes. You don't have to have the 3 different sections. You could have just done pve.local. It's totally up to you, but generally for LAN-based FQDNs, I just ended in .local just to keep things.
Okay. So put something here and then .local.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now
and that was the hard part.
The hard part's done. All right, let's see. Oh, Bill from Columbus, Ohio with love. All right, let's see where else we got. We're gonna catch up on chat here while we're doing this. Proxmox seems to be particular about what it installs on. Fought with an install on a laptop for hours, and it would stall every time. Trying to find an HHD, switched laptops, and it worked first try. Oh, that's funny, Greg. Do you know anything about that, Will?
I'm not sure. However, I was looking earlier about how you can actually take a full-blown Debian-based operating system and convert it to Proxmox. It's just a matter of removing a couple of packages, adding the Proxmox repositories, and you should be able to convert a normal Debian install to Proxmox. So if you're having problems installing from the Proxmox ISO, that might be a better solution or a more easier transition if you can get Debian 9 installed with the drivers working, and then just installing the repositories. There's a wiki on Proxmox website that actually talks you through what you have to do. Let me see if I can go find that, or you might be able to pull it up too.
I can look for it here. It's probably not going to be under downloads, is it?
No, I found it with a Google search. If you search for Debian to Proxmox, I think that should get you.
Install Proxmox on Debian Stretch.
Yep.
Does it look like that? So
Yeah.
maybe, you know what, Sachi, maybe the problem that you're having has to do with this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's a hardware thing. And maybe the thing to do would be to follow these instructions and try and install Debian on your machine that you're using. And then this will give you the steps, looks like, to install all the stuff you need for Proxmox. And it'll essentially run the same as if you'd done it from the ISO, right? Once you get there.
They'll put the packages on there. I'm not sure about some of the custom, like the SSL certificates. I'm not sure if it'll create that. However, it should get you Proxmox.
Should get you running, hopefully. Maybe try that. Oh, let's see. What to say? Oh, Frank is saying, oh, hey, Frank, kernels are not optimized for laptops. Laptops have specific hardware in many cases. And let's be honest here, Proxmox was not created to run on laptops. Probably true. Okay. I converted a Debian install to Proxmox. Dominic says, I wanted to keep an existing Windows installation, just needed to follow the wiki exactly, but it was pretty straightforward. Awesome. Thank you, Dominic. All right. Yeah, you got to have a computer that supports virtualization. Cool. Wiki instructions are really straightforward. Awesome. Thank you. What is my Nook's config? It's a my Nook. It's nothing special. It's an i3. I think it was 2015. It's an i3. I don't remember what gigahertz, like 2600, something like that. And then 32 gigs of RAM and an M2 hard drive. That's 256. That's it. It's I think I looked at it on Amazon. It was, somebody gave it to me. It was Ty, Salty Automations. He just had it sitting in his basement or something in a box and said, "I'm not using this. Do you want it?" And I said, "Yes." So he sent it to me, and that's what I'm using. And it works pretty good. But it's an i3, a lot of RAM, but it works good. It's a few years old. So does Proxmox need to run on bare metal? That's best, Ian. I don't think it has to, maybe, right, Will? But it should. It's
not a requirement. However, it's going to best utilize the resources by being on bare metal. It's meant to be. I think it's considered a type 1 hypervisor. I'm getting kind of technical, but specifically speaking, VirtualBox is also considered a hypervisor, but it's a different level. So this is meant to be running as the base operating system, as you've stated before. If you wanted to play with it, you can use it. It's going to operate a little bit slower if you run it in a virtual machine like VirtualBox or VMware Player, but you can use it and see how it functions and play with it to kind of get a feel for how the interface is working.
All right. What else we got here? No power outages yet, but it seems a lot more stable than a Pi. I've certainly liked it. It's been good for me. Change a thing or two. Installation configurator Mosquito into the RASP. Verify the installation of AS. It was bad, and I accidentally rebooted, and now it doesn't connect to RASP anymore. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's see. Chad's got a problem. Change a thing or two. Installing configurator. Oops. And Mosquito into the... Just verify the installation. It was bad, and I accidentally rebooted. Oh. So Chad, what you're saying is you went to verify your configuration and in Home Assistant, and there was an error, and then you restarted anyways. You're going to have to find that error. I don't know of another way. Maybe some of the guys in the chat can tell you if there's a different thing to do, but I guess, do you have, gosh, you probably can't even, if you can't even start it up, you probably can't even get to your snapshots or anything. Do you have any backups or snapshots off of your, off the machine where you're running Home Assistant? Because that would probably be the thing to do. If you don't know, the other thing you could try, I don't even know if you can get to your files, because you'd have to go into whatever YAML, whatever stuff you changed, and fix it, and then try restarting it again. Ugh. You're probably not completely SOL, but not knowing exactly what you changed and how to get it back to the way it was before, you may have a struggle ahead of you, for sure.
I didn't catch. Was it already converted, or is it being installed on Proxmox?
It wasn't a Proxmox thing, I don't think. It sounds like it was just he was doing he was just in Home Assistant. He was installing the configurator and the mosquito add-ons, and then he went to verify, and he got a bad verification, and then rebooted anyways, and now he can't connect. See if you can. Man, yeah.
Yeah, SSH would be the best. If you can SSH into it, you should be able to change the YAML.
Yeah, try that. See if you can connect through SSH or Samba or something, and get to your files that way. But I'm betting you can't, because a lot of times, at least, not that I've ever had anything like that happen, but if I did, what I found was I can't. If Home Assistant won't start up, you can't even get into your file tree and get to your config directory and stuff to change things. But
so
hopefully
complete
that's not the
recovery.
case.
In a recovery scenario, what you might consider doing is pulling the SD card out, putting it in another computer, and try to load, say, an Ubuntu Live CD, because Ubuntu has the ability to mount the same partitions that Hassio uses, and then you can go in to the partitions that way and modify the files manually. So there's always another way in, as long as the data is accessible and you can still write to it, like the SD card hasn't cracked out. You still have the ability to do that. You're just going to have to kind of go through a few more steps.
And I don't know, Frank's talking about using the Hassio command line tool. So that might be something you can do if you can't get all of Home Assistant to start up as well. So sorry, Chad, that's a bummer, man. I'm feeling for you, brother. That's a bummer. Great use for the Nook, arrives in store your Peter says he got a Nook, and the great use for the box that it comes in is to put your Pi in it that you used to use for Home Assistant. That is a good use. Got Proxmox installed on your Nook, migrated a Raspberry Pi 3B over, including Google Assistant, Samba, and ESP Home. Happy, good. Just don't know if you want to start a new machine up. Already have 4 running now. Well, one of the reasons that I I did this, Dale, was because I was running Home Assistant on a virtual machine in a Windows computer that was like, mega power consumption and heating up the whole room and stuff. So being able to let that machine, that big honking power hungry machine, shut down sometimes, in order to, because the only thing I need running all the time is Home Assistant. So now that's just on the Nook, so I don't have to worry so much about that. So for me, that consolidated machine's a little bit, or at least put it on a different machine. Proxmox can't use IMG files, can't run Raspbian, more difficult to convert. Oh, that's your current project. Oh, Will, okay. So yeah, so somebody was trying to, make a Proxmox install of essentially make it look like a Raspberry Pi, where you could do the to convert that we've been doing. But was struggling with that.
So, though Proxmox does not directly load IMG files, what you can do, because I've done this with some other operating systems that I've been playing with, you can create the VM like you would if you were going to do it any other way. And then once the VM is loaded, I can provide you with instructions on how to do this, but there is a tool that you can use to try to import it. So you can import files that are not standard. My script for installing HASSOS does that. And worst case scenario, you could actually use DD to take the image and force it onto the virtual disk that Proxmox creates for you. Depending on how you install Proxmox via ZFS or LVM, you might have to reference the reference the virtual disk differently, but the process is going to be the same. DD is going to say, here's the .img file, the output's going to be, this virtual disk, and it'll just extract whatever was in the IMG and put it on the virtual hard drive. and you should be able to boot it. Proxmox uses QEMU, so you should be able to emulate a lot of different types of hardware, ARM-based processors, as well as Android systems and whatnot. I'm not really sure what's specific about Hassio, but the process for getting the image into the virtual environment it should be all the same. It's going to be a couple of different ways. You can either use the Proxmox command line tool, or DD is another option.
Cool. And I'm gonna take a second here and just say that in Discord there's a virtual machine channel. There's a virtual machine text channel. So a lot of these questions that if I can't get to it, if me and Whiskerz can't get the answers to you now, go there and you know, you can hit up Whiskerz, or there's a bunch of other guys in there too that know about how to get this stuff done and how to get some of it fixed. I am, as always, far from the expert. Barely functional is more like it. You know, this is taking longer than I thought. Do you think maybe we could? No, we probably can't while this is running, huh? I was wondering if we could do some of those other things that we were going to look at while this is installing, since I'm going to have to run before too long. But I don't think we can.
You can let that run in the background. We can go to the after Proxmox is installed, what it looks like, and kind of some customizations that we want to make.
Okay, let's do that then. Let's do that. So we're gonna this is like one of those baking shows, right? Where they say, okay, and they put it in the oven, and then like 30 seconds later they take it out of a different oven. It's like that. So when it gets all done, you end up with something like this. And then Whiskerz had just set up for us a couple other things we can do to improve a couple things about Proxmox. So tell us about this stuff, and then we'll see if we can do it on my main install.
Okay, so that first line, what's going to happen is when you install Proxmox, it defaults to using the subscription-based repo. You're not going to have access to that repo. So when you try to update Proxmox, it will likely give you an error and not allow you to update, because it's going to try to access a repo you don't have permissions to. So that first line is going to disable the subscription-based repo.
Okay, so I'm going to copy this guy. I'm going to go to my Proxmox, and this is my main real deal Proxmox, and I can go to the shell, correct?
Correct.
And then just paste this guy in there, or will it not let me paste it?
Actually, if you close this one, there's a different window that you can open up that you can actually paste into. If you click on the down arrow next to shell,
oh, cool,
and you click on xterm.js, that one you can actually right-click and paste into the window.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to run that command. Oh, while I do that, oh, that didn't do anything. Okay,
yeah, it's not going to come back with a response if it was successful.
Okay, so if it was successful, Randon, you knew what I was thinking. Well, I needed to share that link. Okay. Okay, so that was good. Where did that?
That next command, what it's going to do is it's going to add the community repo. Okay. It's going to give you more up-to-date stuff. The subscription-based one is for people that pay for it. It's more stable. The updates are a little slower, but they're more baked. The community, they say don't use it in production because it's a little more bleeding edge, but it's perfectly fine. I haven't had any problems. I've been running Proxmox for over a year, and I update as soon as a update comes through. So this is a suggested way without a subscription anyway.
Okay, cool. All right. So where did that window go? There it is. Right? I just heard Mrs. Z's and baby come home. Okay. So we're going to click this guy now. Oh, I already did. It already went. Okay. So that's that one.
So that last section is to disable the mag, and if people aren't familiar with it, if you want, we can show it. Just go ahead and go to your Proxmox window and then log out up in the top right, and then log back in, and you will be able to bring to.
And then this is
everybody's
the nag
attention with the
message
nag
that
we're
you
talking
get.
about. This nag, yeah, we're going to go ahead and remove that.
I'm going to get rid of that, baby. All right, so I'm going to copy this top part here first.
Those two lines, you can copy them together. It'll
Okay.
just run them both.
Like that. That's it.
Yep. Now go ahead and log out. And then before you log in, hit the refresh button.
Up here?
Correct.
Maybe we should do a full on hold shift to do it. Okay. Hey, no more nag message. Sweet.
Now, this
That
may
was easy.
change later on. I had that fixed before, and then through one of the updates, the nag message came back. So one of the packages that are updated, it may rewrite that file that we changed. Running that command should fix it. If they decide to reorganize the file structure or rewrite the code, that little part of the script may not work.
Okay.
So try to hit me up either in Discord or something. Let me know that it's not working. I'll figure out how to change it and update this if it ever comes to that point.
Awesome. You're a star. Thanks, man. And then what I was going to do is what everybody hasn't seen. I was going to try and do it today, but it doesn't look like I'm going to have time. I hate to cut it short like this, but nature of the beast sometimes. Anyways, in your oh, that's just your gist. But in your repo, I did it that time on live where we used your script to install HASSIO inside VirtualBox, and it was awesome. Do you have that handy? Let's see.
If you just go to GitHub and then Whiskerz007, it should bring it out. One thing I wanted to bring to light is I've been updating the repo with more and more details about some useful things on how to manipulate HASSOS for certain scenarios. So if there's something that comes up that isn't making sense, or I'm using the issue tracker and people that are engaging with me there, I try to take what they're saying and then update the repo to reflect those requests. So if the information isn't there, either hit me in Discord or in the issue tracker, and then I'll try to make sure I keep updating it to provide the most relevant information.
Okay. So this part was super easy. Once we got, we did it on that other live stream, and I'll have to just copy it in here because we're not going to get done in time here for sure. With this thing being 70%, I don't remember if it took this long last time. Maybe this is because we're inside of the virtualization already. Is that?
Yeah, it's because we're virtualizing it. I have a beefy computer, and just installing HASSOS, the download portion took a considerable amount of time longer, and it's because we're not able to pass through the same kind of control. It has to emulate the CPU and the underlying hardware, and it takes more CPU power to do all this emulation.
Yeah, so if you were doing this on bare metal, it would go a lot faster than it's going now. So that's cool. All right, John's got to go. See you later. Let's see. Oh, did I see Mark in here? Oh, Mark Rogers, different Mark. Ubuntu installation. Proxmox. Does Proxmox easily support external hard drives? It should.
So external hard drives, they should be presented to the operating system as a USB device, and if it's not, it would be a PCI device. You do have access to pass through either one of those. Sometimes PCI devices are a little bit more cumbersome to pass through because you have to remove it from. You kind of have to put it in a disabled state when you boot the operating system. But you do have the ability to pass through PCI as well as USB devices. It just depends on how that device is being presented to the operating system.
So I did it with the USB the other day. Oh, hardware right here. And then I just found what I was looking for here. No, not network. What did I do? USB. I was close. I was really close. And then if you have something plugged in, it shows up here, right?
Correct.
If you have
now, one thing that that you see up there, it says Spice port. There is a virtual interface that you can install for the operating system you're using called Spice, and it's actually kind of a nice it's a nice tool that you can use. And through the Spice port, you can actually pass through a USB port that you plug in on your local machine and pass it through the virtual machine while you're using Spice to do the connection. But you'd have to install the dependency packages for your operating system in order to do that prior. Definitely not something that's long-term. It's going to be temporary use, but it is an option. Some people may not understand what that's for, but that's what that is.
Okay. So somebody had this is a good question. I think we can solve here. Let's see. Somebody says, my Proxmox storage is named local, not local LVM. What do I need to do to make your script work? He's looking at these here. He says he's got his just says local, not local LVM, but I'm not sure which script you're trying to use, Matthias. That's not working.
If it's the HASSOS script, if you go ahead and bring up the repo on the README, it talks about how to change the storage ID, and that's the section you're looking at. So in that one-line script up at the top, you'll have to scroll over a little bit, right after where it says bash tac s. That is what you need to replace with the name of your storage pool that you're installing the VM into.
Okay. I think that did it for him, I'll bet you. So that's the part he needs to change right there. Got that, Matthias? I think that's it. And Will says, you're so right, Will. No more running to the nook in the closet for ESP Home. You're so right. It's so awesome. ESP Home and just being able to update things, it's fantastic. You have to plug it in once, but not anymore after that. Okay, good. Looks like Matthias says thank you. Benefits of using Proxmox versus ESXi 6.7. Used ESXi. Is there an easier way to say that? There should be. The ESXi 6.7 for a while with server VMs running Home Seer Pro 3 on Ubuntu VM, Plex on another, Blue Iris on a Windows VM++. Oh man. So what is the benefits of using Proxmox?
ESXi is, I want to say it's using the same underlying technology. The virtual machine platform, I believe, is still QEMU, which is the same thing Proxmox does. VMware might have some special sauce that they add to it, but they're building on top of a lot of the same open source tools. So functionality wise, you have access to a lot of the same benefits. Where it really differs is VMware is they have a lot of resources and money in their hardware, and they go through a lot of certifications in order to make sure that their software will work. And so by contrast, there's going to be a whole lot more of an expense involved. I know that VMware does have a free alternative, and how they get you the free functionality is they neuter the capabilities without a subscription to their software. So you're limited to a certain number of CPUs and limited to a certain amount of RAM. For home use, you may never hit those limits, but a lot of the same things. So one of the things that I'm aware of that ESXi limits you is being able to do what's called high availability, meaning you can have multiple physical machines serving the same virtual machines. Proxmox gives you this functionality out of the box without paying for the subscription. VMware requires you to pay for it. So it's just stuff like that. Feature-wise, VMware, you're probably going to have to pay for it, whereas Proxmox, a lot of that stuff they give to you for free.
Awesome. One thing, maybe the last thing, let's try and do. What other points did we want to really make sure we covered, Whiskerz? Did you have a few other things, or Where are we at on those? I think we did this. That was great.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I mean, just to kind of get up and running with HASSOS. I mean, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of it. Install
Yeah.
Proxmox, run the script to install HASSOS.
Yeah, you can't mess that up too bad. I mean, if I didn't mess it up, nobody can mess it up. What I was gonna ask, maybe the one thing to look at is somebody was talking about trying to get the display output for a specific machine. Can you tell us about that for a second? So they wanted to be able to plug in a display to their NUC or whatever it is they're using, and then get certain a certain machine to output through that display, and they were having trouble. Somebody asked me about that at some point. Is that a pretty straightforward thing to do right here?
Okay, so in order to have that happen, you have to pass through a PCI device that provides a graphics display. So essentially, you have to have a dedicated graphics card that you will pass through to the VM. And then when that VM starts up, the graphics will be rendered on that video card, and whatever you have connected to that video card, it'll pass through. So there's a lot of forums out there where people are doing the PCI pass through. I know Level 1 Tech, they have some instructions on how to do that specifically for Proxmox. There might be some guides that are helpful in the wiki at Proxmox website, but that's the essential process. What you're going to do, you have to have a dedicated GPU that you can pass through to the VPN, or sorry, to the VM. If you only have one graphics card and it's an integrated graphics card, you might not be able to do what you're looking for.
Okay. Well, that would make sense why they were having trouble then. That totally makes sense. Okay, somebody asked, what system are you running Proxmox on?
Me, my system?
Yeah, you personally. What is sort of your specs on your hardware that you're running Proxmox on?
Okay, so I have a Supermicro motherboard. It is a 16-core Atom. I think it's a C3985 Atom processor. So it's 16 true cores, 16 threads. I have 128 gigs of ECC memory, and that's what I run my Proxmox system on. And then I have a VM that runs the hard drive. So I have 8 terabyte hard drive that's also in that same machine that's passed through to my FreeNAS virtual machine, which does all of my file sharing and handles my file storage. It also is where I put my VM. So I have to boot up my FreeNAS virtual machine before I can start up any of my other VMs. But one of the reasons why I do that is because I have ZFS, and I can encrypt ZFS. So if somebody decides to try and kite my server or kite my hard drives, they're not going to be able to use the data that's on it. It's all going to be gibberish.
There you go. All right.
I have it in a little box downstairs, but
yeah. All right. I'm loving I'm glad that I asked about how do you pronounce ESXi, because now there's some fun stuff in the chat about I'm XI and I know it. Sorry, had to do that. All right. I think that's it. I think we're pretty good. I know I gotta go. It's 11 o'clock. We got sick kid downstairs. We got to do some doctor stuff today, but this was really helpful. Whiskerz, thanks for introducing me to Proxmox, and thanks for making it so dang easy to for noobs like me to get it going. The stuff you've done with these scripts and things have just made it really nice and really simple. Be able to copy and paste command line stuff like this. Like, there's no way in the world I would ever be able to come up with what I would need to make some of these things happen like you've done here in like one line that I can just copy and paste in the command line. So thanks for taking the time to do that. It's much appreciated by me and the rest of the noobs in the world.
Yeah, no worries. If anybody else has any other questions, I'm on Discord frequently. I'm located over in the European time, so US might have some trouble getting a hold of me during certain hours, but I'll respond.
And someone asked, someone said, where is the text channel for it? So if you're in, I need to change the icon again. It's time to change the icon. But if you're in my Discord, there's a list over here of text channels. If you just hit up this virtual machine one, this is a good place for these kinds of discussions. And I'm sure Whiskerz will be in there. And if you guys have more questions now about what we did today or other virtual machine related stuff, head there and get your answers. All right. I'm going to take off. Whiskerz, thanks again, man. Appreciate you being here. No time for stickers.
Have fun.
And no time for stickers today, fellas. I'm just going to say, as always, thanks for watching. Till next time, adios. Signing off. See ya.